Okay, so now that we've gone ahead and taken care of our dynamics, we want to start creating our lights and also starting to worry about our rendering. That's going to be things like our shader, our render settings, and of course, making things a little bit more streamlined and efficient. So for lights, I'm not really going to create them here right in front of you, pretty much because I'm not really an expert lighter by any means anyway. I just threw some lights together ahead of time. I'm going to go ahead and import them, and I'll go ahead and show you how I have those set up. It's actually a very, very simple setup. I'm going to go here to import. So I have over here this, let me see where it is, lesson 19 lights. I'm going to go ahead and import that. Okay, and it's gone ahead and brought these lights in. I'm going to go ahead and take those namespaces out. Should have actually set that not to import, but it's a pretty quick and easy fix. So as you can see, I have two area lights in here and one point light. If we were to kind of zoom out, you could see I have one area light over here. I have it just set at all the default settings. I've not changed anything. When it comes to shadows and things, I have adjusted the color to have a slight yellow tint, kind of to mimic the sun a little bit. And I have it set to 1.1. Also kind of left the scale. Let's see. Looks like I have it about 9.9 on each one. Now for this other light over here, I have that one a bit larger. It's about 16.8 in scale. This one I've turned down a bit, but I have made it larger, so there is more light coming off of it. It's got a slight blue tint to it, and it's got an intensity of 0.2. And then I have this light in the back just to kind of give a little bit of rim lighting. This one's up really high, and that's because I'm not rendering him from the back. I'm just rendering from the front, so it gives a nice little rim light. Of course, if we were to render from the back, we would need to turn that down pretty significantly. So very simple setup. Only the defaults are on. You can see the shadows for these area lights are just set to the default use ray trace. I haven't changed a thing. Okay. So that kind of gives us a start for the lights. Now, when it comes to rendering XGen, XGen is fairly expensive. It does not render all that fast. I mean, it's faster than you would think for the amount of geometry we are rendering, but still not by any means extremely fast. So what we want to do is streamline our scene as much as we can, especially when it comes to anything that relates to XGen. So right now, we're generating our primitives randomly across the surface, basically meaning that every time I hit this button over here, it's regenerating those primitives based on all of the settings we've given it. What we can do is speed that process up by actually recording the fur to an XPD file. To do that, I'm going to come over here to modifiers, and I'm going to add right here. The modifier is called a groom bake. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. Now it comes in ahead of the animation wire, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that down over here so it's underneath them. I don't want it to bake in the animation. That's going to be something that's added on top. So you can see that right now it's off. What I need to do is turn it on over here, and I need to select a directory that I want to put this bake in. By default, it's going to use this the actual description, which is our Bigfoot fur collection here, Bigfoot body fur, and it's going to make a bake folder. So I'll just say bake an XPD groom to there. I'll just hit that, and we'll have to give it just a moment. It's pretty quick. And that's been baked in. What we want to do now is make sure under preview, and I'm sorry, under primitives over here, that we change generate primitives over to from XPD file. And then we'll go ahead and make sure it's set to this directory, the description bake. If you wanted to change it, you could. But this folder is just fine. That's obviously where we have the bake. And you'll notice that now generating the fur is considerably faster. And you can see there's quite a bit I'm generating right there. And it still is going to work at all the different frames. It's not just for one frame. Now, I want to also kind of streamline and speed up the animation wires here. Now, I've already done a little bit to speed this up. As I'd mentioned, I've actually baked out, no, excuse me, not baked out, but I've cached out the nucleus, or rather the hair system, through an encache so that it's not having to simulate in real time. However, if you look over here, it's currently set to live mode. Live mode meaning that it's got a real-time connection into the nucleus to actually detect the animation. So in order to kind of get this a little bit more efficient, what I can do is actually export the animation curves as an Alembic file and just read it through this wire file over here. So to do that's pretty straightforward. You just need to get these animation curves. Go ahead and hide that over there. With those selected, I'm going to go up to, and actually let me grab them individually. Go ahead and select those there. I'm going to come up to my, where do I got it here, to cache, Alembic cache. I'm going to export, oops, where's my export selection? There we go, export selection to Alembic. Time slider is just fine. I'll go ahead and export that. And I've already done this once before, but I'll just write over this wires.abc and hit export. Sorry about that, my speakers were up. And yeah, we'll go ahead and overwrite that. This will take a moment. It does have to go through the whole thing. And whoops, it looks like it decided to crash on me right there. Let me go ahead and quickly restore this. Okay, so I'm re-exporting those wires now. Good reason to save often. The reason it crashed there was, remember I was telling you guys a little bit earlier that for whatever reason in this current version, if I'm exporting, if I'm, playing back these wires inside of my Viewport 2.0, Maya just decides to crash. And hopefully it's something they fix sooner rather than later. Okay, so that's in there now. I'll go ahead and hide these wires again. We'll just Control H. And I can actually completely shut off my nucleus now. I'll select my nucleus node. Let's go into my attribute editor. I'll go ahead and disable that. You can even turn off your all the settings here inside of your hair system if you wanted to. I can just say simulation method is off. And what we would do now is under the XGen window, under the animation wires, I would make sure live mode is shut off, and I would just browse to that Alembic file. So that's going to be here under cache, Alembic. There's wires.abc. We open that up, and now rather than having to kind of move through the entire dynamic system in order to find the information from those wires, it's now getting it just from this Alembic file, and that'll speed up the rendering process. So we now have our lights in here. They're set up, and again, you saw they're really simple and straightforward. You can, of course, light as elaborately as you want to. I kept mine relatively simple. Just want to get a little bit of rim on the edge there, and that's about it. So let's take a quick look, though, at just what we have. I'm going to go ahead and set up the render here. We'll just kind of render him in his default position. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I am using Mental Ray. Cool, that is turned on there. So let's go ahead and render a frame and just see what we have by default. Okay, and here's our render. Took about 45 seconds. It's not at particularly any high quality. I believe I'm also only rendering, I believe, between 30 and 50% of the hairs. I don't remember exactly. But you can see it's coming together. We got a little bit of rim light there. So what I want to do in the next lesson is work with the XGen hair shader a little bit. It's not a super complex shader, at least not on its own. You can do some really amazing things with it, though. But I'll show you kind of the gist of it, how we can at least get this looking a little bit better. It's kind of a little on the boring side right now. So I'll go ahead and end this lesson here, and in the next lesson, we're going to do a little bit of hair shading. So I'll see you guys there.